My boyfriend's charming facade disappeared once I moved in. Now, I'm trapped in a relationship I no longer recognize. Hi there. I could really do with some advice on how to talk with my boyfriend properly about things in our relationship I'm really unhappy about. Sorry if this is long, but I feel like I need to get all of this out. I'm quite a sensitive person and hate confrontation, so when I start talking about things that upset me, it really shows. And then I don't feel like I can get my point across. I've 24F, been dating my boyfriend, 26M, for a year. I moved in with him fairly quickly after just a couple of months. I know that's quite early, but at the time it felt right. Early on, he was incredibly sweet. He sent gifts to my door after only having met me a few times. He was full of compliments, he was so charming, and didn't treat me like any guy had treated me before. But now he has changed so much. He's almost like a completely different person. I feel like he is constantly putting me down. Whenever I do anything, it seems like he needs to correct me and tell me I'm doing it in the wrong way. Just one example. Whilst cooking, he'll grab the pan off me, sound mad, and say, "I'll do it. I'm obviously the only one who can do it right." He seems to always be hostile about something or other. Living with him is like constantly walking on eggshells. Very rarely do we have an evening when we sit down to dinner and have a nice normal conversation. If he's not on his phone during dinner, he says work stresses him out, so he has to do lots of work from home too. He'll ask my opinion about something and always get mad about what I say. If I don't agree with his point of view on whatever we're talking about, he'll always roll his eyes or get mad. Everything is a debate. One minute he will get home from work, pick me up and hug me, tell me that he loves me and missed me. Then 5 minutes later, he is completely different towards me. The whole atmosphere changes. He looks so cold and robotic. The only words I can use to describe how he looks is cold fury. At one point when we were out shopping, he was being very snappy and giving me one-word answers. I said, "When you look at me like that, I actually wonder if you hate me." After that, he was very apologetic. He said he doesn't notice when his stress levels are still high from a busy day at work, and that he knows he shouldn't take it out on me. He makes me feel guilty about things that aren't my fault. A couple of days ago, he was telling me about some friends he used to hang out with who had a boat, how they are so much fun and he misses hanging out with them. I said, "Why don't you go and see them? Why don't you invite more friends to our house?" As he never really does. And he doesn't like my friends, so we don't have many people over. But he only said, "No, that was a different life. I'm with you now." He says things like that sometimes that make me feel like I'm totally boring and that I'm holding him back from stuff. There have also been a few instances that have really made me question his faithfulness. For example, one weekend he spent Saturday with his ex who is bi. He went to meet her new girlfriend because he says they are still good friends. Then on Sunday, he went to catch up with a female friend from college who he said he hadn't seen in years. He drove for 3 hours to see her. This isn't something that would bother me at all. I really don't mind whoever I'm with having female friends. But then on Sunday night when we were watching a movie, my phone was on charge in another room, so he gave me his to find something I wanted to buy online. I went on his WhatsApp to send the link to myself, and the app was open on a message to one of his male friends. It went something like this. Him. "Dude, I went to see X and Y on Saturday and saw Z today." Boom. Friend. "Spent too much time with your GF already, have you? Are you going back to your old ways, naughty?" When I asked him about it, he just said that that's how guys talk to each other and his friend is just like that. When I said that still sounds like you've been up to something, he accused me of invading his privacy and being too needy, even though I didn't go looking and it was there on the screen. He went to a party in a different town last weekend for his friend's birthday. I thought it was a bit strange that he didn't invite me, but I was working the next day, so I assumed he didn't want to leave early to have to drive me back in time. He slept over and spent most of the day in this guy's house, and when he texted me, he was really snappy. When he made it home and told me about the guy whose party it was, I realized this guy is the brother of his ex-girlfriend. Let's call her Mary. After a while, he told me that Mary was there and that seeing her jarred him. I asked him what he meant by that, if he still had feelings for her. He told me he didn't know what he meant by that, but that he doesn't have feelings for her. I said, when you say seeing your ex jars you, and you didn't invite your girlfriend to a party that you knew your ex would be at, you have to admit that's a little weird. But the more we spoke about it, he just said he didn't still have feelings for her, and that he knows I've been hurt by guys in the past, but that's not his fault, so I shouldn't take it out on him. I'm really confused about how he treats me. On the one hand, sometimes he can be totally charming, tells me he loves me and wants to build a future with me. The next, he is dismissive and makes it seem like he'd rather be anywhere else than be around me. We had a moving in party, and when one of my male friends hugged me goodbye, he pushed me into our bedroom, slammed the door, and then punched the wardrobe, because he was so mad that this guy had hugged me and had been flirty all night. I know that was awful, and the next day I did tell him it wasn't okay. He just said he loves me too much to stand for guys acting like that around me. But if he loves me that much, why is he so cold towards me half of the time? We hardly ever have sex anymore, and when we do, I feel like he's just going through the motions. I understand that his job is stressful, and he has said that's what makes him moody with me sometimes, but he won't listen when I ask him to simply switch off when he gets home. How do I go about confronting him but not crumbling? Anytime we've had even the slightest disagreement, he shoots me down. I end up feeling so anxious and start crying. And then he says he can't talk to me when I'm upset. Then we don't ever get to resolve my original point. I've been told before I can be a bit too sensitive, and that's something I've tried so hard to work on. But as I've been typing this, I really don't think that having genuine concerns about how he's treated me is me being too emotional and unreasonable. I love him and just want us to get to a point where we can actually talk about this stuff for more than a couple of minutes. How can I get him to actually listen to me properly? Update 1. Firstly, thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. I got so much from it, and seeing so many supportive comments really helped me. I learned a lot, so thank you all so much. I realized through reading your comments that I was in an emotionally abusive relationship. It wasn't communication tips I needed to get out. The past month has been so up and down, but I wanted to share an update. After a pretty weird, stepping on eggshells kind of morning, I confronted him about his behavior and mood swings. I prepped myself for a huge argument, and honestly, it didn't go exactly as I expected. First of all, he started to deny he was doing anything wrong, but for once I stood my ground. I don't think he was expecting that. I had lots to say. Many of your comments came in useful there, and I tried so hard not to back down. After a while, he kind of changed. He got upset. He then started saying all sorts of things, that he was sorry, but he didn't realize how his behavior affected me, though I'd brought it up many times. A little later on, he said that he had been thinking for a few months that it was his fault my doctor said I had depression. So that's a huge contradiction. He said that for a few weeks he had been thinking about breaking up with me, because it's my fault that you are this way, and breaking up sooner would have been the noble thing to do. But that he was so torn for ages. He said that's why he had been even more awful to me lately, that his frustrations were just coming out. Again, contradicting what he said about not realizing how his behavior affected me. He said he has never cheated, but I'm really not sure if I believe that. Maybe it's best if I don't know. Then something really unexpected happened. He started to cry. The first time I have ever seen him cry. He told me that he had been texting a work friend over the past few days about our relationship. He even showed me a message she sent to him which went something like this. You have a wonderful textbook girlfriend and you are fucking it up because you are being an ass. This is why everyone at work thinks you're a psychopath. You are so cold and bad when it comes to feelings. So I guess it wasn't just me who found his behavior not normal. He cried even more and said that he doesn't feel close to people, that there's only a handful of people he lets in and he doesn't know why he does that. He said that even being around his immediate family was cold and formal, and he doesn't know why he is like that and can't connect with people, and that's also why he throws himself into work so much. I told him that if he didn't get help, he would end up a very lonely old man. In that moment, I felt pretty strong and proud of myself. So, as you may have guessed, we broke up. Part of me for a while even thought about trying to save it and work at it. And now that I look back, I can't believe I was ever even thinking that. He kept saying, I just don't know what to do for the best. Should we break up or not? But doing so was absolutely the right thing. I've since had many friends coming forward saying they didn't trust him. Something was off, etc. Regarding the girl I talked about, his ex who he cheated on his other ex with, I could see on her brother's Instagram a video of my ex smirking at his phone, and the caption was, "He's thinking about my sister." To which he replied with another winky face. So, what does that say? But I'm not looking Instagram at this stuff anymore. On the day we broke up, he packed some bags and left. He told me to stay with a friend. It turns out that that friend was his ex's brother, and he's been living there for a month. I will be moving into a new place in 2 weeks, and even though he has gone to stay with his friend, he is still paying his share of the rent. He just swings by to pick up some stuff every now and then when I'm at work. I haven't actually seen him. For the past few months, I've been feeling really low, with barely any energy. I'm picking myself back up again, and though it's a slow process, I'm coming back into myself. I'm determined that I'm not going to let anyone make me feel like that again. And I'm not sure if I needed to write all of that and if you guys needed all of those details, but writing this was quite cathartic. I guess I would just say, to anyone who is reading this and my original post, who is in a relationship that they feel horrible in, just leave. It's hard, but please leave. You will feel so much better. Thanks again, Reddit. Update 2. Hey everyone, I'm back with another update. I didn't expect to be here again, but things have taken a strange turn, and I honestly don't know what to think anymore. I guess I'm looking for more advice or maybe just a place to vent because this whole situation has left me feeling more confused than ever. So, as I mentioned before, my ex moved out, and I've been slowly trying to get my life back together. I moved into my new place, which has been great for me. It's small, but it's mine, and I've been focusing on decorating it and making it feel like home. I've also been reconnecting with friends and even started therapy, which has helped me process everything. I thought I was on the right track, and for a while I felt like I was finally moving on. But then something unexpected happened. A couple of weeks ago, I started getting random texts from an unknown number. At first, they were pretty harmless, just stuff like, "Hey, how are you doing?" or "Hope you're doing okay." I assumed it was one of my friends checking in, so I didn't think much of it. But when I asked who it was, the person wouldn't tell me. They just said something vague like, "I'm someone who cares about you." I found it a bit creepy, but I wasn't too worried. I figured it was probably just someone trying to mess with me, so I blocked the number. But then, a few days later, I started getting more texts from different numbers. The messages started getting more personal, with details about my life that only someone close to me would know. Things like, "I saw you at the grocery store yesterday. You looked beautiful in that blue dress." Or, "I noticed you changed your hair. It suits you." That's when I started to feel really uncomfortable. I knew someone was watching me, but I had no idea who it could be. I asked around my friends, but none of them admitted to sending the texts, and they all seemed just as freaked out as I was. I even considered going to the police, but since the messages weren't explicitly threatening, I didn't think they'd be able to do much. Then, last week, I got a message that really shook me. It said, "I miss you. I wish we could go back to the way things were. Please, can we talk?" At that point, I was sure it was my ex, so I texted back, asking him to leave me alone and let me move on. But he denied it, swearing it wasn't him. He even called me to try to convince me that he had nothing to do with it, which only made me more confused. Why would he go to such lengths to deny it if it really was him? Things escalated even more a few days ago. I came home from work and found a bouquet of flowers sitting on my doorstep. There was no note, but I immediately got a text saying, "Did you like the flowers? I picked them out just for you." I was terrified. I had no idea how this person knew where I lived, and I felt completely unsafe in my own home. I called my ex and confronted him again, demanding to know if he was behind all of this. He sounded genuinely shocked and insisted that he had nothing to do with it. He even offered to come over and help me figure out what was going on, but I declined. I didn't want him anywhere near me. After that, I decided to stay with a friend for a few days because I just couldn't handle being alone in my apartment anymore. While I was at my friend's place, I got another text, this time saying, "I'm sorry if I scared you. I just want to talk. I miss you so much." That was the final straw. I decided to go to the police and report the harassment, even though I wasn't sure what they could do. The police were sympathetic, but as I suspected, they couldn't do much without more evidence. They advised me to keep a record of all the texts and to call them immediately if anything more serious happened. They also suggested changing my phone number, which I did. For a few days, things were quiet, and I started to relax a little. But then, yesterday, I got a text on my new number. It was the same as before. I miss you. Please, can we talk? I have no idea how this person got my new number, and I'm completely freaked out. I feel like I'm being watched all the time, and I don't know who I can trust anymore. My ex is still insisting that he has nothing to do with it, and I want to believe him. But I'm starting to doubt everything. I don't know if I'm being paranoid or if there's really someone out there who's fixated on me. I'm scared, and I don't know what to do next. If anyone has any advice or has been through something similar, I'd really appreciate hearing from you. I'm at a loss, and I just want to feel safe again. Thanks for reading, and I'll update again if anything changes. Update 3. I didn't think I'd be back with another update, but things have taken a turn that I never could have anticipated. I'm honestly still in shock, and I don't even know where to start. I'll try to keep this as clear as possible because there's a lot to unpack, and I'm still trying to process everything myself. So, after my last update, things kept getting worse. The texts continued, despite me changing my number multiple times. Whoever this person was, they were determined to keep contacting me, and it felt like they knew every move I made. I couldn't go anywhere or do anything without getting a message about it. It was like they were always one step ahead, and I was constantly looking over my shoulder. I went back to the police several times, but without any concrete evidence, they couldn't do much. They suggested getting security cameras for my apartment and maybe even considering a restraining order. But since I still had no idea who was behind all of this, I felt like I was at a dead end. My anxiety was through the roof, and I was barely sleeping. I even started staying with different friends every few nights just to feel a little bit safer. Then, about a week ago, something happened that completely changed everything. I was staying at a friend's place when I got a call from an unknown number. Normally, I wouldn't have answered, but I was so on edge that I picked up without thinking. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds, and then I heard someone breathing. My heart was racing, and I was about to hang up when I heard a voice that sent chills down my spine. It was my ex. He said, "I need to talk to you. Please don't hang up." I was furious and terrified at the same time. I demanded to know why he was harassing me, why he couldn't just leave me alone. But what he said next left me speechless. He said, "It's not me. I swear to God it's not me. But I think I know who it is." I didn't know whether to believe him or not, but he sounded desperate, almost scared. He told me that he had been receiving strange messages too, and that someone had been following him. He said that he had been trying to figure out who was behind it, and that he had a theory, but he didn't want to tell me over the phone. He asked if we could meet in person so he could explain everything. I was hesitant, to say the least. The last thing I wanted was to see him again, but I was also desperate for answers. After talking it over with my friends and taking some precautions, I agreed to meet him in a public place. We met at a coffee shop in the middle of the day, with plenty of people around. When I saw him, he looked like he hadn't slept in days. He was jittery and kept looking around like he was expecting someone to jump out at him. I sat down, and he immediately started talking. He told me that after we broke up, he had started seeing someone new. A woman he had met at work, who he said was really intense from the beginning. He said that things had moved quickly between them, but that he had started to feel uneasy about her after a few weeks. She would get jealous if he even talked to another woman, and she started asking a lot of questions about me. At first, he didn't think much of it, but then she started bringing me up in conversations, asking detailed questions about our relationship. He said she seemed almost obsessed with me, and that she would get angry if he didn't answer her questions. He broke things off with her after a month, but that's when the strange messages started. He didn't put it together at first, but as the messages continued, he started to suspect that it was her behind it. He said she had access to some of his accounts, and he thought she might have been tracking him somehow. He tried to confront her, but she denied everything and then suddenly disappeared. He hasn't been able to contact her since. He showed me some of the messages he had received, and they were eerily similar to the ones I had been getting. I felt a mix of emotions: relief that it might not be him after all, but also fear that someone else was targeting me. He told me that he was scared for both of us and that he didn't know what to do. I was skeptical, but the more he talked, the more it made sense, the more it made sense. The timeline matched up, and the details he shared were too specific to be a coincidence. I didn't want to believe that someone could be this obsessed, but the evidence was hard to ignore. My ex was genuinely frightened, and despite everything that had happened between us, I could tell he wasn't lying about this. He suggested that we go to the police together with this new information. He thought that, if we presented a united front, they might take us more seriously. I was hesitant. Part of me still didn't fully trust him, but I agreed. At this point, I was desperate for this nightmare to end. We went to the police station that same day and explained everything. The officers were more receptive this time, especially after hearing about my ex's experience and seeing the messages we both received. They said they would open an investigation and advised us to be cautious. They also recommended that we both stay with friends or family and avoid being alone until they could figure out what was going on. For the next few days, I stayed with a close friend and tried to go about my life as normally as possible, but the fear was always there. I was constantly looking over my shoulder, and every time my phone buzzed, my heart would race. My ex and I were in regular contact, updating each other on any new developments. It felt strange to be in this situation with him after everything, but in a weird way, it was comforting to know I wasn't alone. Then, a few days ago, something happened that changed everything. I was at work when I got a call from the police. They asked me to come to the station as soon as possible, and when I arrived, they told me they had found the woman who they believed was behind all of this. It turns out she had been stalking my ex for months, even before he broke up with her. She had somehow managed to get access to our phone numbers, social media accounts, and even our addresses. The police said she was extremely tech-savvy and had been using various methods to track and harass us. They found her after tracing the origin of some of the messages and discovered she had been using burner phones and encrypted apps to cover her tracks. The woman was arrested and is currently in custody. The police are still investigating, but they believe she acted alone. They said she has a history of obsessive behavior and that this isn't the first time she's done something like this. Hearing all of this was both terrifying and relieving. I'm grateful that she's no longer a threat, but the whole experience has left me shaken. Since her arrest, I've been trying to pick up the pieces of my life. I'm still in therapy, and I'm working on rebuilding my sense of security. My ex and I have gone our separate ways again, but we've agreed to stay in touch, at least until the investigation is completely over. It's strange, but this whole ordeal has brought us some closure. In a way, it's helped me move on from the relationship in a way I never expected. And I know it's going to take time to fully recover from this, but I'm trying to stay positive. I've learned a lot about myself and the importance of trusting my instincts. If there's one piece of advice I can give to anyone reading this, it's to always take your safety seriously and never hesitate to ask for help if you feel something isn't right. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support throughout this ordeal. It meant more to me than you'll ever know. This will be my last update, as I'm hoping to close this chapter of my life and move forward. I'm ready to start fresh and leave the past behind. Take care, everyone.